I don't know that I would call myself a grief expert. I don't think that's a title that I really want to have. But I certainly have experienced a lot of grief. And I can't say that I'm afraid of it by any means. It's not my favorite thing. I recognize it a whole lot faster, and I can certainly recognize it in other people because I've walked through some of the same patterns and cycles. And a lot of you are probably familiar with, the cycle within grief of denial and anger and all those things. But really, the point of this video is because I have just a few of the things. Walked through a very difficult divorce after being married for 4.5 years, remarried and was married for 19 years. And 4.5 years ago, my husband passed away, and pretty suddenly, within 5 weeks. We got on a mission trip to Austria. Everybody got COVID in all of our families, and he was the only one that went to the hospital and never came home. 7 months prior to that, my oldest daughter was murdered. And, back earlier in our marriage, I was a teacher, had given my life to raising everybody else's kids, always worked in youth group and Sunday school classes and babysat kids, and then was a high school teacher for 13 years. And then, we found out that I couldn't have children. And that never crossed my mind. Like, never crossed my mind. So I ended up having 3 miscarriages, and then walked, so through the whole, infertility thing, and we ended up becoming foster and adoptive parents. Fostered a little girl and had to send her home when she was 11 months old. We went through 13 failed adoptions. So meaning that someone had come to us and said, we want you to adopt our baby, and then for whatever reasons, like when the girls gave birth, they just couldn't do it, or like we had gone through the state and we had interviewed, and they basically had said, like, if you just show up and do the interview, because there just aren't families interested, in these children. And then all of a sudden a family last minute would show up. I mean, like last minute. And we would get a phone call that said he didn't get the child. So fast forward, we ended up adopting our middle niece when she was 15. She walked through some horrible abuse from a family friend that went to our church. So we had to go through a trial that caused a whole lot of issues and problems and a lot of grief. Then we did a tribal Indian adoption with one of our children, and then we did a private adoption with our third daughter. And all of those came, you always think of adoptions, or I always did, a lot of people do, as being like the super duper happy moment, and it is, but there's always a family on the other side. And 2 of the 3 biological families that we adopted from, we knew them personally. It wasn't just a stranger. Our third, we'd only known her biological mom for about 4 months. So we met her when she was 5 months pregnant. But the other 2, we're adopting their children, but they're people that we know. And so we're ecstatic about adopting, but we also know that they are grieving, and our hearts are broken for them at the same time that ours are thrilled. So just all that to say, grief is not something that is new to me. And so I get asked quite a bit of, how do you, what are some of the best things that people did for you through the grief? Because to be honest, when somebody passes away, or something like infertility, people just don't know what to do. They just don't. They have the best of intentions, even within the church. They have the best of intentions, and they can love you dearly, and they can say the dumbest, most hurtful things. So know that, It's not intentional. They really do love you. Uh, and sometimes they just say stupid things. But what I found, I mean, I had friends that were incredibly sensitive to what I was struggling with and what I was going through, and they would come to me, later on. They're rethinking the conversation. They would come back and say, "Michelle, I'm so sorry. When I said this, I didn't mean for that to come across. Did that make you think of Matt?" Um, and and really, I can't think of a single time when a person came back to me concerned about something that they said that had really hurt my feelings. It was always things that, like, totally out of the blue, that I know that there was no way that they could have possibly known what they said. It, referred to like an inside joke or a song that was special between he and I, or, something like that. And I was just, devastated. And so, the things, what's most helpful. So, it's a whole variety of things, but like in a nutshell, if you want like one thing overall, keep showing up. Like, just keep showing up. And telling them, some of the most meaningful, I had friends that would come to me and say, "I don't know what to do. I can't begin to understand what you're going through. I don't understand what's going on with your kids. I want to be a friend. So, I'm going to try. And please know that anything that I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I'm going to try." And, like, I would just bawl. that meant more than anything, that, even if it was going to be sticky, and even if they might hurt my feelings or say something that they didn't, that they were going to keep showing up. And, just a few, like literally showing up. So, when our oldest daughter was, in residential, so my stepsister and my niece, they came every single Wednesday night for 3.5 years. Every single Wednesday night. They came in and took care of my two babies, so that my husband and I could go and visit our oldest daughter. She was 45 minutes away in a residential. So we drove 45 minutes. We would have family counseling with her on Wednesday nights. And then afterwards, he and I would go to dinner, and we would sit and we would process through that counseling and just be able to look each other, across the table. They did that every single Wednesday night for 3.5 years. And I would come home, babies they'd had baths, they were in bed, they had been fed, and, she would even, they would pick up the house, they would clean sometimes, they would do laundry. Not even asked. Like, that was huge. When my husband passed away, I didn't have a choice. I had to go through our house and sell. That whole thing of like, don't make any decisions for at least a year. Like, that wasn't an option for us. And just the way that things were. And I had a friend that came 5 Saturdays in a row. And she just said, "I'll be there at 9. She knew that I had to pack up the house. She knew that I had to sell things. And I'll tell you, every 5 Saturdays that she showed up, I was standing in the basement and literally just turning in circles and crying because I didn't know where to start. I was so overwhelmed. And so she would just pick something up and she would go, "Is this a keep? Is this a giveaway? Is this a sale?" And it would at least like get me moving. And she brought me a Dr. Pepper when she came. It's the little things. I can remember we lived far out. We lived, 25 minutes away from the church. A good 30-ish minutes from, sometimes 40 minutes from a lot of people at our church. And for a full year, a team of guys from our church came out, and we had a full acre of property. We had goats, we had animals. They came out, they mowed, they took care of things. I remember coming home on one Wednesday night from church, and a couple of guys it was Christmas, and that first Christmas is a doozy. And they had just bought a couple of strings of lights, and they put up Christmas lights on the front of my house. Like, and again, a very simple thing. I never would have thought of it. I didn't fix meals. And, something else, we were a hard family to fix food for. I had kids with major food allergies and a mom also that couldn't eat certain things. And I actually met one of my best friends today. She's a nutritionist, and she had just started coming to the church, heard about this family that needed food, and nobody could fix us meals because of how specialized food that we needed. And she showed up, and she had actually found out our allergies and cooked us a meal that we could physically eat. And like, seems like a small thing, was huge. I was thrilled. It was like the first cooked meal we had had in months. Um, just listening, somebody, they would see a devotion book and they would just say, I thought of you when I saw this. I had friends that live far away, and each of my really good friends, like from 20 years, every single one of them made it a point to come out and spend a weekend with me. And so, I mean, they came from Missouri, they came from Minnesota, they came from Texas, and they spent a weekend with whatever I needed, whether it was helping me redo a bedroom, whether it was just taking me out to eat. Like, they made the time and they came. Same thing with like phone calls and texts. I didn't pick up the phone a lot. Like, I just was tired of talking about it. But it meant so much to me. Like, it never I was struggling all the time. So you could have texted me 24 hours a day and it would have been just the right time. But just the fact that people thought of me. And the big thing, especially being a young widow, I was 43 when he passed away, and my girls were 9. And a big thing with young widows is, it's like, well, he's been gone for 4 years, yes. And I still don't have somebody that can help me move furniture or clean out gutters or, that kind of thing. So even just this week, a guy at the church that's a deacon, my mom is a widow and also lives with me. And he just said, he reached out and he was like, hey, do you have things that we could help with? We're going to, we have this Saturday coming up in February. Can we come and help you? And so if you are part of a church body, even if you're part of a work organization, a bigger company, everybody kind of falls off the planet about the 6 to 8 month mark after someone passes away. And the grief and the difficulties and the finding out what you really need for the family, for the person that's experiencing the loss, is just really hitting about that time. And saying things to people like, well, just let me know what you need, or just reach out if you need something. Not going to happen. Like, I'm pretty, I'm not bashful, as you can probably tell, but a lot of times I didn't know what I need. I just didn't know. But if they called and said, what night this week can I bring you pizza? I could tell them that. I remember a man from our church calling and saying, I'm going to go pick up groceries for your family. I know you have special food needs. Send me a list of 20 things that you could use. Send it to me by Friday. I can do that. One of the biggest things, the men at my church, anytime that there's a camp or something for the youth, the kids to participate in, somebody pops up and comes to me and says, can I pay for your kids to go? Like, seems like just a simple thing. If they're selling t-shirts for the youth or whatever, a family will come in and say, can we get your kiddos, sweatshirts when we get our kids, and making sure that they got to do that. If they had things going on at school, good night. So we buried my husband and my daughter, out in the ocean, and it was about 6 or 7 hours away from our home. The 2 kids' pastors, they drove the 7 hours, went on the boat to hold my kids and to be with my kids, even out there when we buried their dad and their sister, so that I could also grieve. Who does that? Who does that? So showing up on the day of, and knowing that when when we lose a spouse, especially if you don't remarry, like, it's a long-term thing. Like, just keep showing up. Another big thing that I didn't realize right away was physical contact, just physical touch, period. Like, how much I missed. I remember so again, I'm part of a Sunday school class, and it's mixed. There's single people, there's married people, and it's, probably 40s all the way through your 70s. And so, we're there they're in front of their wives. Like it's totally appropriate. But especially like some of the older guys would just come and just hug me, you know, and like I can't tell you what that means, what like still means to me, because like I don't get that anymore. I don't have anybody's hand to hold. I don't have anybody to lay with at night, and I certainly don't get, you know, hugged. But even more than that, it's still been 4.5 years, and there are still, you know, family friends and also friends from our church, and they seek out and put their arm around and check in with my kids every single Sunday. Like, that's huge. It's huge. If you know of a mom who is parenting, especially boys, invite those boys to go fishing, to go hunting, to, you know, participate in a Bible study, whatever it might be, but to mentor those kids. So those are, I'm sure there's more. Oh, I do remember, like, just randomly, people would send my kids gifts in the mail, like off of an Amazon list. I didn't make the Amazon list. They just knew what they liked, or they would shoot me a text and said, hey, I want to shoot your kids something this week. What's something that they would like? And they would order it on Amazon, and it would just show up in the mail. And just little like distractions, little rays of sunshine, bringing me plants. Or I had a friend that came up and planted a rose bush, you know, in my yard. And something I've done for, I have a friend that's a widow, and she's a super introvert, and she doesn't like to just sit and talk and, you know, that kind of thing. But I knew it would make her laugh. But like I took a pizza over and a soda one night, and she has an indoor dog, but I put it on her porch, and I just shot her a message and said, if you can get to the pizza on the porch before your dog, supper's there. You know, which she did. She got a huge kick out of it. So those are just some of the ideas, and just keep showing up.